Hey Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And we're at episode 127.
127.
One day, I shall come back.
Oh dear, we are in trouble, aren't we?
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
I have the advantage of being slightly ahead of you. Sometimes behind you, but normally ahead of you.
The trouble with time travel is one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear, and it seems not a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
A meteor storm, and the sky above us was dancing with lights. Purple, green, brilliant yellow, yes!
I'm the doctor, by the way. What's your name?
Rose.
Nice to meet you, Rose.
Run for your life.
It's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
Just remember who's standing in your way. Look at the eyebrows. These are attack eyebrows. You can take bottle tops off with these.
Howdy do, Who fans. Hope you've had a cracking week and that you've managed to do something Doctor Who related. Coming up on today's show, we have got some big news to talk through. Sad news. It's a sad day.
It is. We got lots of news, but we've got a bit of everything, haven't we, today?
Sad news on more than one front. A little bit of merch, and then we're on to our review. It's the 11th Doctor's turn. Yes, Matt Smith.
Yes.
And those creepy dolls.
Drunken old Matt Smith.
Yes. Night Terrors.
I was just thinking we're going to have to add a new Doctor into that intro. I was going to say soon, actually. It won't be that soon, though, will it? But yeah, that's strange to think, isn't it? As the clips go, eventually our theme tune is just going to be about 10 minutes long before we get into the podcast.
In a few years' time,
Yeah.
Unless somebody pulls an Eccleston and only does one season.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
One season, one series.
One series, yeah. God, you haven't said that for a while. Yeah. But yeah, isn't that strange to think we'll be adding a new voice into the intro at some point? Wow.
Yeah. In a year's, well, I'm assuming in over a year's time, unless we hear a very small clip from somebody at the Christmas special later this year. Yeah, it will be another year of Capaldi.
Yes.
And then he'll have another voice after his.
I'm wondering, I'm wondering when we'll find out. Actually, will it be far away? Have they already decided? We just don't know what's going on behind the scenes of the BBC, do we? No, anything could be happening.
Nobody ever does.
I think they've already got someone, mate. I'll be honest with you. I think they've probably planned this well in advance because Chivers was on board a while ago and all that sort of thing. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if they haven't already got somebody lined up, ready to go.
Of course, yeah. We'll come on to that stuff in a little while. First up, Mr. Adam.
Mr. Gary.
How have you been, old fellow?
Good, thanks. Yeah, not too bad. I haven't managed to do much Who-wise this week. Not much at all, actually. In fact, just a bit of Big Finish for me this week. I've been listening to The Starmen, which is one of their monthly range.
Is that a Davison story?
Yes, it's part of this new trilogy of Davison stories, but it's with the Tegan, Nyssa and Adric TARDIS team.
Right.
Yes. I thought the mention of Adric might get a chuckle. That's why I bought it, because I like that TARDIS team. So,
any good?
Yes. Yeah, I've listened to it's a 4-parter. I've listened to the first 3. I've just got the final part to go. Yes, it is. I wasn't too gripped by it to begin with, I'll be honest with you.
Right.
The first episode, I thought, oh dear, because I used to subscribe to the monthly range, and now I just sort of cherry pick ones that I think sound good, or for example, I like this TARDIS team, so I thought, right, I'm going to get these 3, so I sort of cherry pick the ones I want now rather than getting the whole lot. So yeah, I don't know, I was sort of thinking, I hope I haven't wasted my money on this one, because it didn't grab me to begin with. But I have to say, by episode 3, yes, I was thinking, okay, this is good, I'm enjoying this. So yeah, I just need to finish it off, really. So, but yeah, it's okay. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say yes, you must go and get it. Right. It's not like Order of the Daleks where I was just like, God, this is a great release, really good release. But it's it's been a good listen.
Cool.
Yeah, they all sound. I mean, they do all sound a bit different. Apart from Nyssa, I think Nyssa sounds similar, but Matthew Wardhouse's voice has obviously dropped a little over the years, as has Peter Davison. So they do sound a little bit different, but they've got the sort of mannerisms and the sort of characters are still so identifiable that it does totally work.
Yeah. One of the things that you hear quite frequently, if you listen to any of the behind the scenes / interviews, that tracks they put on the end of a lot of Big Finish now. Yeah. One of the things that's quite common is for the actors to say that it was really easy to slip back into their characters once everybody was, even if it's just Doctor and Companion. Like I know Sylvester McCoy has said that early on with Sophie Eldred, and I imagine it's the same with these guys. I think once you're in a room and you've had a bit of banter and you've read through and stuff like that and you start getting into it, I imagine it comes back quite easily.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the whole chemistry is definitely still there. You can pick that up, and I think I like the little behind the scenes bits because Peter Davison and Janet Fielding are so funny together, aren't they? They really bounce off each other and give each other a bit of stick, but all in a very sort of pally sort of way. So it's good to hear those two together.
Yeah, I was going to ask her actually, what's Tegan like? Is she still going mad?
Yeah, she is. I think she does actually say something at the beginning about getting back to blimmin' Heathrow again. I was like, she's not still going on about that. So it's obviously set near early on in her adventures on the TARDIS. But she's still she's still going on about broken clocks.
Let it go, love. Let it go.
Yeah, why would you want it? You're travelling the universe, but all she wants to do is get back to Heathrow.
It's a strange,
yeah. It's strange. But yeah, so that's all I've really managed to do this week. As I said, I haven't even managed to finish that, so I've still got one episode to go. Still reading the Davison book, which I'm loving, and that's it for me this week. Yeah,
cool.
A bit quiet on the old Who front. What about you?
Yeah, a little bit quiet. I did manage to sneak in a classic. So the other day, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, I watched. Was it the weekend? I watched The Daemons because I was on a Third Doctor bit of a kick after watching The Curse of Peladon for our review last episode. I was sort of scanning through and I thought, I watched Inferno fairly recently and I've watched a couple of others, but I haven't seen The Daemons, not since we actually reviewed it, I think, whenever that was last year.
Yeah, I was just trying to think. I can't even remember. We did review it, didn't we?
Yeah, something like that. So that was great to watch that. I love that story.
It is good, isn't it? I like it a lot. I always hope that one day me and you'll get to go to the Blue Ball pub together.
We will.
Yeah, we will. We'll do that at some point. It's a great place to go, yeah. Yeah, hasn't changed at all.
Yes, and if you want to see that, check out Adam's. You've got that location video on the Geek's Handbag, haven't you?
Yeah, I did a video a while back now, but it's still on the page. Just have a look in my location folder or whatever it is on YouTube. Yeah, it is a great place to go. I know we'd love it. And what I love is the locals have really embraced it. So there's like bins that are in the shape of the TARDIS by a different pub, not the Blue Ball, and there's a Dalek bin and stuff, and it's just really cool. But the actual village and all the green and the church and everything just looks exactly the same, and cool. It's just like, it's so cool when you just walk onto that green and stare at the church. It's like, oh my god, yeah, it's great. We'll definitely go. I'd love to go back.
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
Other than that, not much really. A little bit of I kicked off the Torchwood stuff yesterday. So a few weeks ago, I picked up, or just before Christmas, I picked up the first Torchwood one, the John Barrowman, The Conspiracy.
Yeah, right, okay.
And that is awesome.
I saw your picture of it, actually, yeah. So it's really good, is it?
It's really good. I'm not sure how many of our listeners or Big Finish fans have listened to it and are a fan of it or not, but it's kind of done in a different style to your average sort of Big Finish. It's not like you're following characters through a story. It's basically Captain Jack is kind of reporting to you as the listener as to what's going on in the story. So it's hard to explain, but he's kind of giving you like the lowdown on the story, and then it sort of cuts to him. So he's like narrating the story. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah,
and it's that cut with obviously the normal story elements that you have with any Big Finish, but it's really, really good the way that they've done it. So at first I thought, is it one of those sort of adaptations? Is it John Barrowman reading something else? But very quickly you realise, no, it's actually him, giving you the lowdown telling you what's going on, and then it cuts to, you know, that segment as a story that he's just spoken about, and then it's him again saying, it's really good because of that. I found it really interesting. I couldn't stop listening. I listened to the whole thing. It's not very long, but I just listened to the whole thing all the way through, and it's a really interesting, really good listen. So I think the next one in the series stars who was his co-star in Torchwood? I always forget this guy's name. As
which character?
I can't remember his character's name. I can never remember. Yanto Williams.
All right,
yeah.
Yanto.
Yeah. So I think he stars in the second one, and then I think What's Her Face is in the third one.
Yes, I know you mean, and I don't know her name either. The one that was only in 1 or 2 episodes. They got her back. Is that what you mean?
No.
Or do you mean?
What's her name? Miles.
Sophia Miles.
No,
that's Madame de Pompadour.
As always, we're brilliant with names. But I did.
Be terrible.
I was thinking of fast forwarding loads and getting the box set that they brought out in November. I think it was called Breakout.
Oh yes.
But I thought, no, I want to get the early ones so that I can sort of build up, because I don't want them to reference things. And I'm like, oh, what's that? Scratching my head. So yeah, and then I picked up the episode 1 in the Tom Baker series, so The Beast of Kravanos.
Oh, right.
And I've listened to the first part of that, and I tell you what, Tom Baker with the Jago and Lightfoot guys, it's just brilliant.
Yeah.
It really, when we've seen them on screen in Talons, there's such great chemistry between those two anyway. And then when the Doctor's involved, it's quite funny, and it's literally like they were just transported from back wherever it was in the 67, was it the 70s? Early 70s, through to 2017, like nothing's happened in between. It's literally like they stepped off the set of Talons, walked into Big Finish and started recording. It's just really good.
Yeah, I need to get that one as well. I really want to get the Torchwood ones. I really do want to get those. I've only got one actually, which is I bought the Torchwood archive that they did, and I only listened to it about 2 weeks ago actually.
Okay.
But it sounds very similar in style to what you've just been saying actually, because it threw me a bit. It's a 2-disc set.
Right.
It threw me a bit because it goes a bit back and forth. So for a while I was wondering what's going on, but it does make sense towards the end. But that's a bit like narration and then action and stuff, and it was very well produced actually, and it definitely made me think, right, I've got to go back and get the other Tortured releases. Yeah, I hear they're very good, so just got to get the old dosh, just got to get some dosh,
got to get the old dosh, mate. But that was me. Yeah, so fairly light, but I did manage to get in some good stories there from the classic years on Big Finish. So
thank goodness we've got Big Finish to keep us going in a minute. Hey,
I know, right?
Yeah.
Thank the Lord.
Gets me through the ironing.
A BF. Yes. Yeah, it gets me through a work day some days.
Yeah.
Right. That's us. We're going to crack on with some news. So, shall we land a TARDIS?
Yeah.
First up, we have some really, really sad news, actually, because although this was kind of semi-expected, it still hits you a little bit like a punch in the face. But so Sir John Hurt, as Who fans, we all would have known him as the War Doctor, has sadly passed away.
Yeah.
I think it was just last week, was this?
Yes.
It was last week, at the age of 77. And so we would know him as the War Doctor, but he's had a really, really, really long, successful career in tons and tons of films. I think the first time I ever saw John Hurt was when I was a wee lad watching the first Alien film when I wasn't supposed to be watching it.
Yeah.
And he was the character that he was like the very first famous chest busting scene.
That's right, yeah.
And which scared the crap out of me when I was about, 6-7 years old. I shouldn't have been watching it. Mum didn't know I was watching it, but so that was the first time I saw him. And then I've seen him in like some other bits over the years as well. I think the Elephant Man was a cracking performance from him. Loads of other things, and I think he has picked up some big awards in the past as well. I'm pretty sure he's won an Oscar for something.
He won a BAFTA for playing Quentin Crisp in The Naked Civil Servant.
Oh, yeah, a BAFTA, that was right. Yeah, he was nominated for an Oscar. I can't remember what for, but I know that he lost out. Oh, it was he won a Golden Globe and a couple of BAFTAs. So really long career, really successful. And, like I said, as Who fans, we would have known him as the very awesome War Doctor.
Mm.
And like I said earlier, this was kind of expected, but not, because I think a couple of years ago he was diagnosed with cancer, wasn't he? Pancreatic cancer. And I think, if memory serves, he was actually still working regularly through his therapy and so on. I think he did the Big Finish box set while he was in chemo.
I think he did, because they're the 4 box sets are all recorded, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's incredibly sad, because although it was almost a sort of an isolated story for him as the War Doctor on Who to the whole 50th anniversary, the Big Finish side of things, I think there could have been a bit more there. I think we could have had a few more War Doctor stories there. Yeah,
and I think he could have interacted with any sort of with other Doctors as well as the releases go on. Now they've got the new series range, but he is wonderful on the audios. Because he clearly relishes that part. I think on the making of the Day of the Doctor, he says how you can just see that he loved that part that he was given, the War Doctor, and he really puts himself into it. And I'll tell you, on the audios, they're very good. They are very, very good, and you can hear that he's enjoying being in it. They're well worth a listen. The first time I ever saw John Hurt, I didn't really see him. He was under a mask. Was in The Elephant Man, which I watched as a kid. Again, I don't know. I think it's only a PG actually, but it was still quite an adult film. But I do very clearly remember seeing that when I was very young, and it's a film I've absolutely always loved.
It's a great film. Yeah,
excuse me, I can't watch it without crying, because it's such a sad film, sort of loosely based on a true story. You don't really get to see John Hurt because he's under so much prosthetics and all that. So, I don't think I even realised it was him for many years later. But it's still a film that I absolutely love. It's a genuine classic, and also The Naked Civil Servant is a fantastic drama and quite important. Quite important that was made. Because obviously based on the character Quentin Crisp, and if you've never heard of Quentin Crisp, Google him. He was quite a one-off, shall we say, and John Hurt played it brilliantly in that. Hence the fact he won a BAFTA. And it's interesting because Quentin Crisp was so over the top that they put a clip at the beginning of the real person, so that you knew that John Hurt wasn't going over the top in his performance. I think because if they hadn't showed you the real person, you might have thought, surely he didn't talk like that, surely he didn't do that. But when you see the real person, you're like, yeah, John Hurt's spot on. He's really got him down. Yeah. So that's a great drama, and really worth seeing. Some good, it's got some good statements of the time and the era that's set in as well. Obviously the War Doctor, he was wonderful in Day of the Doctor. I know a lot of us would have loved to have seen McGann in it, and of course a lot of people often say, given the choice, would I have had McGann or John Hurt? But the fact is, they created this character, the War Doctor, and he played it brilliantly. And he did. The humour and interaction between him and the other Doctors in that was fantastic as well. So, considering he just went straight in there playing this character, he just slotted in, brilliantly, I thought. So it's very sad.
He's got a very distinctive voice as well, which is even more apparent on the Big Finish stuff. It's really, really, it's really great. So it's sad, but in another way, it's a chance to celebrate his long career. Really, he's had so many wonderful roles, and I think a lot of Harry Potter fans were gutted as well because he was the Mr. Ollivander as well.
Oh yeah, do you know this is the thing? He's done so many films that actually there are so many you forget as well that he's in, and
because I remember my wife told me about his passing away before I knew, and the way she told me was Mr. Ollivander has died.
Yes, that wouldn't have been.
Yeah, and I was like, oh no, surely not. But yes, so unfortunately, Mr. Sir John Hurt leaves us this year, but absolutely not forgotten as the War Doctor.
No, never will be. 77 as well he was. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, in other news, Big Finish, we were talking about them earlier. They have won the BBC Radio Drama Awards.
Nabbed it.
Well done, guys. We were talking about the nominations a couple of podcasts back. And obviously Big Finish were part of that. They won it for the story Absent Friends, which is part of Dune Coalition 3. That was released last year. The Dune Coalition sets are quite good, actually. A little bit hit and miss in places, but generally very good. So well done to Big Finish. Well deserved. I mean, those guys, their output is incredible. I don't know how they find the time and to do it, and then generally very, very good quality. So it's well deserved, I think.
Absolutely. We've said that so many times. You know, it's incredible how they find the time to be consistent. I mean, it's not just they put out the odd good one and it's in a sea of mediocre. It's not that at all. It's always consistently very high quality, and the story, it's mainly the writing really, because I think you sometimes, it doesn't matter what medium, whether it's TV or film or audio, you can sort of paint over the cracks sometimes with like amazing effects or production value and all that. But you know, it's at the heart of anything really, it boils down to the story and the characters and the writing. And one thing that Big Finish are so good at is taking the characters that we've known from TV, Doctor Who, and really giving them another whole world almost that you would never dream of. You know, so once you've finished, say if you did a marathon of Tom Baker or Sylvester McCoy or even Colin Baker, you've done a TV marathon and you think, wow, that's they've covered a lot there. That's nothing compared to some of the stuff, you know, that Big Finish have delved into.
No,
you know, so they've managed to take all of that history and the whole thing of Who, and made the TV look like the tip of the iceberg.
It's right, yeah.
So it is amazing. So, you know, huge thumbs up and huge applause, really, for well deserved.
Yes, well deserved, the guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Last bit of news. Only something small, so we'll get through it quick. Yes, I'm sure all of you will know by now, because whenever something like this happens, it always breaks the internet. So I'm sure that everyone has seen it. But yes, Mr. Capaldi, our 12th Doctor, has decided to step down and leave the role at the end of this year. Now that's huge news.
Yes.
And out of the blue, to be honest with you.
I was going to say, it was very, I saw it on Twitter, was where I heard. I was sat on the sofa, Twitter, about 10 o'clock, and I saw the official BBC Doctor Who Twitter feed saying, breaking news. I was like, what? No way. Mm-hmm. I couldn't believe it. So he did actually announce it on the radio, didn't he?
Radio
That's
2,
where he broke the news.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't hear it on there, but obviously as soon as he did, it spread like wildfire. It was like you said, the internet literally exploded, didn't it?
Yeah, it's nuts. And the reason why it's out the blue is because for the last couple of years, the official Doctor Who Twitter account have done this really annoying thing where at sort of 10 o'clock in the morning, they'll say, tune in this evening for a big announcement, big news. And that breaks the internet. And then everybody gets worked up into a frenzy. And then sort of 8 p.m, people start going nuts. Like, where's the news then? What's going on?
Yeah.
And they're like, it's coming. And then 11:30 p.m, they'll say something like, character have repaired somebody's sonic screwdriver in Watford. And everyone's like, right, okay. So it comes out the blue in that respect, because you would have thought that they would have done something like big Doctor Who news coming up later today. Blah, 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 blah. And then they would have broke it. But no, just literally silently in stealth mode. Just one little tweet. Capaldi's leaving, and that was it. But I do have the clip. I've edited it down a little bit. You have to bear with. It's about 3.5-4 minutes long, so we're going to shut up for a minute. And anyone that doesn't reach for the tissues in the last 15 seconds, there's something wrong with you. So here's the clip of Capaldi announcing to the world on the radio.
I suppose the the big thing about it for me is that it'll be my last. So that's...
It'll be your last?
Yes.
You bow out after this series?
I will, yes.
Oh, really?
This will be the end for me.
Wow, how do you feel about that?
I feel sad. I love Doctor Who. It's a fantastic program to work on, and it's been a huge pleasure to work with a family. Really, I mean, I can't praise the people I've worked with more highly. But I've always been somebody that did a lot of different things. I've never done one job for 3 years. This is the first time I've done this. And I feel it's sort of time for me to move on to different challenges. So you still have to film your regeneration? So the geek is coming up now. So have you filmed your regeneration? Who do you... No, I'm going to work tonight. How can I'm still there. I'm still gosh. Doctor Who for a long time.
This is such a big deal, Peter. How do you feel about it? God, passing it on to somebody else.
I feel sad. You know, It's sad, but rather wonderful. What a privilege to have done this. You know, it's an extraordinary position to be in. It's, but like everything, you have to be aware of when it's time to move on.
And when did you know? Had you signed up for this for a certain amount of time, or when did you make the decision to leave?
Well, they'd asked me to stay on.
So you were going to leave before?
No, my contract was running out. But then they asked me to stay, and I just thought, I love this, but I don't know how long I can do it and give it my best. And if I'm not giving it my best, I don't want to do it. So it's I want to move on to other challenges, but there will never be anything that's been more special to me.
So you've just announced that you will be leaving Doctor Who, and when will be the final time that we see you?
I think Christmas 2017.
Right, that'll be told. The episode.
Yes.
So it'll be right. So we have a year.
I'm still Doctor Who. I'm still Doctor. I've got a lot to do, and there's a lot of. We're doing epic stuff, and there's a lot of stuff to do. So it's. I'm not done yet.
It's going to be an emotional Christmas day. Good grief, there are going to be hearts broken all over the place.
Oh, yes.
That's going to be tough.
Yes, but what fun. That's the great thing about Doctor Who. It renews, it comes back. There'll be a new Doctor and a new showrunner and a new version of the show, and that's wonderful.
Of course. And as you said, what a privilege to have had this
incredible
part in people's lives.
I mean, it's just astonishing, and you can't... I tell you, if sometimes I walk into a room and people gasp, children gasp. And it's not because of me, I know that. It's because Doctor Who just walked in. That's an incredibly wonderful place to be on the other side of that. And also, I think people probably don't know about the BBC, the kindness that the BBC has shown to so many people, not just me.
There you go, mate.
Wow. Yeah, I hadn't heard that. That's really, really interesting. He's talking to Joe Wiley there, isn't he?
That's right. Yeah, BBC Radio 2.
Yeah, no, he's such an honest man as well, isn't he, Peter Capaldi? He's just so genuine in what he says. Yeah, it's incredible. It is sad. I mean, I think we're not sort of surprised. We all felt when a new showrunner come in that there was this big possibility that he would leave alongside the Moffat. So in some ways it's not shocking, but in other ways it is, because it's like, it's confirmed. Mm-hmm. It's official. He is going to go, and like you said, Christmas as well. So you're almost now thinking. So you sort of know that you're going to have to save a Series 10 and the specials. Think, right, this is it then. We've got a year of Capaldi and that's it. So yeah, it's thing.
It's because you and I have talked maybe about the last 6 months, I would say now, on the show about, is Capaldi going to stay when Chibnall takes over? Is he going to go with the Moff? And then we've said, well, it'd be cool because, we're pretty... Let's not beat around the bush. The Moff hasn't done... I would say he hasn't brought out the best in Who in recent years, especially the last few years.
I would say he hasn't brought the best out in Capaldi.
Yeah,
and I think Capaldi is. Well, I always feel there's this untapped potential as Capaldi as the Doctor that we've seen glimmers of it, but he's never quite reached the heights that I do know is in there, and I put that down to the Moff more than Capaldi because of the writing and because of the way the Doctor was inconsistently written, especially in Series 9. So Capaldi is a great Doctor, but I have got to say I do feel we'll see. Let's hope Series 10. We like you said, Peter knows it's his last series. Let's see how he goes out.
Yeah, and I think that's on the minds of a lot of Who fans at the moment. Is I think we all share a common view that he is capable as the Doctor of a lot more. It's just that he hasn't been. I mean, there have been like some really good stories since Capaldi's been on. Some really good stories, and like you say, we've seen glimpses of that. And for the most part, Capaldi has been flawless, really.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked him as the Doctor. Yeah,
it's really just a case of, and I hate to say it, it's just the Moff's sort of interfering little hands, getting all over the scripts and taking the focus away and making things about Clara too much and. Yeah, we're not pushing the show in maybe a direction we want it to go in. But I think it would have been interesting for Capaldi to stay on with Chibnall because there's all. I think everyone will always say, "What if Capaldi had have done a series with Chibnall?"
Yeah, I think a lot of people.
Yeah, they'd probably say it could have been amazing. Chibnall could have brought out some fantastic stories for Capaldi, but. Alas, that's the nature of what. And I was saying this on Twitter and Facebook the other day, yesterday, that by the time that Capaldi does leave at the Christmas special this year, he would have done 3 series of Doctor Who, and what was it, 5 Christmas specials over the turn of 4 years now? Yeah. So it's not that bad going, really. If you think about some of the other actors who have played Who. That seems to be roughly that time, doesn't it? 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Tom Baker stayed on forever, and Eccleston only did the one. So it got sort of swings and roundabouts. But I think on average, 3 or 4 series or 3 series and I mean, Tennant did 3 series and a bunch of specials.
Yeah.
So.
It's not bad. I mean, and there has been some good stuff in there. I mean, we talk a lot about how. The Moffat, has perhaps let him down in the sense of the writing, but there has been some good stuff in there where Capaldi has absolutely shown what an amazing Doctor he was. I mean, I always go back to Mummy on the Orient Express. You go and watch that episode with he's phenomenal.
Brilliant.
Yeah. He's embraced the role. He's got the look. He's just everything about the episode in terms of his performance and the way he's written is fantastic. Obviously, it was written by Jamie Mathieson, not the Moffat, but the Zygon episode. The speech at the end. There's been some great stuff. Heaven Sent. A Capaldi standalone episode. He's had some really good stuff, but unfortunately, he's also had some stuff that's been the absolute other end of the scale, which has been absolute drivel, like In the Forest of the Night and what's the Sandman one, Sleep No More and stuff like that, which is really, you just think, if you could just replace those episodes, they're not even mediocre, they're dreadful, But as I said, on the other end of the scale, he's had some absolute gems in his era. So at least he will be remembered for that being, a fantastic Doctor in those episodes. And even in the poor ones, it's a bit like a Hartnell episode, isn't it? Where if you get a Hartnell episode and it's really boring or not particularly good story, Hartnell, the screen lights up when Hartnell's on the screen in those stories. And I always feel that with Capaldi, even if you've got a really sort of half-baked episode, he's always really enjoyable and watchable in it. I can't think of any episode where I've thought, God, Capaldi wasn't very good in that story. Even if it's not a good story, he's consistently good in it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you say, some cracking ones. I mean, the Zygon 2-parter was amazing. And he was amazing in it as well. It's just unfortunate, and we could talk about this for ages.
Well, people might think, why am I saying he was written inconsistently and always good in episode? I mean, but for example, in The Magician's Apprentice, and whatever the second part was called, which is familiar.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't particularly like the way the Doctor was written because he was joking around a lot. It seemed to be bumbling around a lot. But I still thought Capaldi was awesome in it. I still thought he was giving a really great performance, and I enjoyed watching him. But it was also quite frustrating to see him giving lines that I thought were more suited to Matt Smith. But, you know, so although he's been inconsistently written, I still think he's always grabbed whatever's on the page and done something with it, you know.
Yeah. And that follows on really from most, if not all, of the Doctors previously. I mean, Matt Smith was. If it was
prime example.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine if it wasn't for Matt Smith, some of the stories, if it wasn't for him, you know, carrying it, we would have been in big trouble.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So, and that's, and unfortunately, I know we keep saying it, but that is down to the Moff. Because if you look at David Tennant's era, and for the most part Eccleston's, the majority of them were good stories. You know, you had the odd clanger, which you'd expect from any series of Doctor Who, but there wasn't those episodes where you think, wow, David Tennant has really had to carry this because all the other cast are dreadful and the story's dreadful. You know, we had half-baked, like you say, and mediocre stories, but for Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi, they deserve, you know, massive props for that because, the Moff has thrown everything at them. He's thrown literally the kitchen sink of Doctor Who history at those guys, and they've had to go with it. You know,
and they work magic, don't they?
Yeah. So so massive props for Peter for that. However, I'm not really. Although on one hand I'm quite sad that Capaldi's leaving. On the other hand, I do feel it is time for a change up. I do feel that by the time 2018 rolls around and we get a new series and a new version of Who with Chibnall as showrunner and whoever they've cast now as the new Doctor, I think it's about time because, and that's not Capaldi's fault, that's the Moff's fault, but I do think it will be a good time next year.
I think it is. It's sad that Capaldi's going, but it does make it more exciting to think we've got this brand new start in 2018. And I think what hasn't helped is having this year with no Doctor Who as well, because that's a whole year gone with nothing. So now we get this year with Capaldi, and like you said, by 2018, we probably will be ready for something fresh and new. So very sad to see him leaving, but it is also very exciting to think, that next year we've got something totally new coming to the screens. I would just quickly go back to what we were saying before, about how us as fans, we can be very critical because we love the show. Yeah. And that's all it is. It's just love for the show, right? And Capaldi's a fan. And he's, what I love about Capaldi is he's so honest in interviews. Like if he didn't like something, he will say it, even with the Moffat sat right next to him. So like in that interview recently of saying how he thought the idea of him riding in on a tank playing a guitar in Sonic Shades was dreadful. He actually said that, didn't he? He said, I thought it was a terrible idea. And I told him, and that's what I love about Capaldi. He wasn't afraid to say, this is dreadful. Yeah. But he said, but then people liked it. So what do I know? But I would love, I don't know if he'll ever do it, but I'd love to hear, or I'd love Capaldi to write his memoirs one day because he's a fan himself.
Yes.
So he was probably just like we would be if we got the job of being the Doctor. Can you imagine being a fan, you're cast as the Doctor, that's what's happened to him. You would look at it and think, well, that's not how I would do it. That's not what I had in mind. I would just love to hear Peter's thoughts on his era of the show, because I would imagine there's bits of it he's obviously absolutely loved, but as a fan, there will have been bits where he thought, oh dear, tut. Yeah. No. Like the tank scene and all that sort of stuff. And I don't know if he'll ever do it, but it'd be fascinating to hear his honest views on his era of the show coming from a fan's point of view as well. So whether we'll ever get that, I don't know. But I love the fact he's so honest about it in interviews. He's not afraid to say, I didn't think that was good, but I really liked this. And
and it's interesting to hear him say about them asking him to stay on, because one of the things that's been rife across the internet and the newspapers and so on is this thing where he has been sacked, essentially.
Yeah.
He has been told to leave because the ratings are so poor and so on. But it's interesting to hear him say, and like you say, he's a very honest person. to hear him say, well, he was asked to stay because, his contract was up and he was asked to renew that and stay on for, I'm assuming, at least one more series. And he said no, he feels it's the time to step away.
I'm so glad you had the radio clip as well, because when the news first broke, obviously I hadn't heard the audio, so I was only seeing what was, in print on paper, on the internet. So one of the things I read and immediately picked up was that he was quoted as saying, "I've been told I'm leaving in the Christmas special," and that just, when you're sort of, this is breaking news, that rang alarm bells. I was like, been told? Yeah. That sounds like he's been, given the shove.
Yeah.
But when you hear the way he says it on the audio, that's quite clearly not the case, is it? I think that, they've probably reached a mutual agreement. He said he was offered the chance to carry on. He's decided it's the time to leave. So it was just great to actually hear him say that on the audio, because, taken out of context, that to me, and I tweeted it saying, what does he mean he's been told? This sounds bad, but to hear him actually say it in context makes a lot more sense. And I'm glad. It's very sad to hear him getting so emotional at the end, but it's good to know that he does feel loved by the BBC, because as we see on the newspapers today when we were recording this, he's taking a lot of the brunt on his shoulders this morning. Like some of the tabloids over here have, on the front page have got like exterminated, Capaldi blamed for rating slump and all this sort of stuff. So him and the Moffat are getting a lot of flack at the minute.
Yeah.
It's just good to hear that radio clip, just to sort of actually wipe away all that nonsense and just get to the heart of what's actually really been said, what's really been going on.
Yeah. And that's the thing with certain tabloids, coming back to that. Crikey. If anyone who's not in the UK, we have a newspaper here called The Sun. And I tell you, I cannot conceive of a person who reads The Sun and would actually take anything written in that newspaper as factual or sensible opinion. It's complete. It's just a rag that just deserves to be, burnt, to the ground, and it's just terrible. Anyway, on the front page, they've got, like you said, they've got Capaldi and the TARDIS right up by the logo, where it says The Sun, and then it says Doctor Who Crisis.
Oh, Crisis, yeah.
Yeah, did BBC force out Capaldi after rating slump? And then it's got the big exterminated logo. And then when you sort of flick through, you get to the sort of 2/3 spread. It says, as Capaldi quits and ratings plunge, we ask, Doctor Who done it? And it's essentially...
Doctor Who done it. This is so typical of them.
It is, yeah. And it's just for the sake of the story. It's just a big finger-pointing exercise, and they've lined up, as a bunch of mugshots, all the people who they think are responsible. So they've said the Moffat's plots are too complex. Gatiss' 2 scripts have been panned. All the fans, they loathed the new baddies. Capaldi is too old to play the Doctor at 58. There's no chemistry with Jenna, and the 8 p.m. X Factor slot is too late for the kids.
Joe, the one that really gets me there is the age thing.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Just because of Hartnell. Hartnell was the Doctor. He was the first Doctor, and he was older than Capaldi, right? Or as old, or the Doctor is an old person inside. He's like 1,000 years old. So the age thing always drives me nuts.
It does.
When they come out.
Yeah,
it's nonsense.
Yeah, I remember
it has no relevance.
Yeah, I remember when Matt Smith was cast. I wasn't watching Doctor Who regularly then, but I remember reading about it and saying that he was way too young.
Yeah,
because they thought that David Tennant was young enough to be the Doctor, and now they've cast somebody even younger. It's ridiculous, and the show is in crisis and will fail and blah blah blah. But yes, it's anybody that's gone out and read any of the papers and stuff like that, just ignore the lot of it. It's just but especially The Sun, they have no facts here to go on. The only thing that they can go on is the ratings, which they've mapped out since 2007. So that's something, unfortunately, we can't get away from. That's a fact. So they're saying that 2005 to 2010, the Eccleston and mostly the Tennant years, we had an average viewership of 6.5 mil. And then when we get on to Matt Smith, 2010 to 2013, it dropped down to 5.8. And then Capaldi, from 13 to this year, it's been an average of 4.5. So, yes, we all know that the ratings are not as strong as they used to be. However, that's in no way an excuse to point the finger at Capaldi for being too old, or anything. If I would say that the two, and I'm going to rant a little bit here, but I would say that the two main reasons why is A, the Moff just went crazy with the storylines. Mm-hmm. If anyone who hadn't seen Doctor Who before watched a handful of the Matt Smith episodes and a handful of Capaldi episodes, they'd probably think, I haven't got the first clue about what is going on. Mm. What is this? I don't know where to start. I've no clue, So he went nuts. And the second thing is, like always, the show is treated as just a naughty little kid by the execs at the BBC, like it always has done. So they messed around with the broadcast times.
Yeah.
And then they wonder why. That's the thing that's annoying, is that the BBC execs will mess around with the show and they'll put a series break in. Remember the series break for Matt Smith's?
Oh, Was it when they broke it into Series 7?
7, was it? Yeah. And then they start putting it on later and later, and then they miss out a week, and then they put it on earlier. So nobody knows what time it's supposed to be on regularly, anything like that. They do all that stuff, and then they start asking questions further down the line about why it's not working.
Yeah.
It's their fault. So I think that publicly facing, the BBC like to sort of wave their proud flag that, yes, Doctor Who is still British and made by the BBC, and we're very proud to have it and blah blah. But I think behind the scenes they just view it as a bit of a money machine, and it's just a sci-fi, a silly sci-fi show. I think that's how they still view it. And until somebody at the top at the Beeb actually appreciates the show properly, to give it the respect and to give it the proper broadcast time on a regular basis, because it always gets bumped.
Oh, it drives me mad, yeah. You never know when it's on.
Yeah, even now they're talking about, because the Series 10 starts on the 15th of April, Saturday the 15th. And even now they're saying that because of Eurovision, it's probably not going to go out 1 week, or it's going to get bumped to like really late in the evening or something like that. So even it's always the show that gets moved or bumped or whatever because of something else. I mean, who the hell wants to watch bloody Eurovision?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Who the hell wants to stick that on as a repeat the next morning?
Yeah, it doesn't get the. I mean, there's one thing that drives me mad is the jumping around the time slot, and also they did start putting on really, really late, didn't they? Not as late as Class, but late, and they put it up against the X Factor or whatever, and they did kind of just shove it away in a corner like that would do. So I totally agree with you about that. Talking to the start date, actually, 15th of April, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I'm absolutely gutted. That's the one weekend of the year when I'm not in the country. I'm just like, I was so upset when they said. I was like, no, it's Easter weekend, isn't it? I'm going away, to Lyon. I'm gutted. So I'll be in France. I don't know if I'll be able to get the iPlayer in France. I doubt it.
Buddy,
you can just imagine trying to watch it constantly buffering. It's going to be going. So I'm going to have to avoid all social media for about 4 days until I get back to watch it. But I'm absolutely distraught. I think that would be the first time I've ever missed the first episode of a new series. Normally I lock all the doors, batten down the hatches, I have a nice bottle of wine and I sit there. No one's allowed to talk. Very often actually I watch it on my own. Have to be there for the first episode to sink it all in, but no, I won't be able to this year, so pretty gutted about that. But just going back to what you were saying, there's lots of reasons for the ratings decline over the years, and but one thing that I think we would both agree on is none of that is down to Peter Capaldi.
Not at all.
Nope. None of it. So he has and is a fantastic Doctor.
Absolutely.
So none of that's down to him.
And now that he has decided to step down, we now enter what's known quite legendary now as a precast in silly season, where the world seems to just lose its mind. I was chatting to a few people on Twitter yesterday, the very good Crinoid podcast.
Those guys are great.
A guy called Dave Probert.
Jim.
Yeah.
Oh, Dave.
And we were saying, because I saw his tweet and he was saying, here we go, precasting craziness. And we were saying, it's every time that this happens, it just seems to escalate into a huge bubble of ridiculousness every time. And my two favourite rumours that I've heard since Capaldi said he was leaving, the first one, and we've heard this loads of times, is that Matt Smith is coming back.
Yes,
as
I keep
the Doctor,
hearing that.
which is just...
Well,
and the second one, and this was a cracker, that William Hartnell, the first Doctor, is returning as the Doctor as a CG character.
Oh dear!
And when I see rumours or hear rumours like that, the thing that worries me more is not the rumour itself, is that people latch onto it as a possible truth.
Yeah,
it's like
a CGI.
It's like, what are you thinking to read something like that and then think, oh, William Hartnell might be coming back? What? I don't understand. Anyway, there's been...
We've got months of this. We've got months of ridiculous names being bandied around.
Loads,
Tom Cruise for Doctor Who. Yeah. Oh, it's going to be, what's the other one they always drag out?
Richard Ayoade, he's up for it again. He's going to be the Doctor.
He's too busy doing the Crystal Maze. He ain't got time to do that.
Miranda Hart.
Oh, good grief.
Olivia Colman.
Yeah.
All
the usual suspects.
All the usual. And then on top of that, we're going to have the ongoing debate. Is it going to be a woman? Is it going to be a black actor? Is it going to... All of this stuff. It's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? As long as the person in the role is good and they care about the character and they care about the show and it makes the show a good watch, who cares who the Doctor is?
Yeah. We've got months of this, mate. It's not going to end until we get that. Do you think they'll do a big casting announcement show again? I think they will, because it's a fresh start in it. So they're gonna want to try and,
Oh, you mean
in
like
the BBC's
live...
the live thing. Yeah.
Oh, like when Capaldi was announced. They did a proper... Oh, maybe, yeah.
See, I quite like that. I know a lot of people don't see that. They're like, oh, why can't it just, why can't we find out when the show airs? Why do we have to have this big announcement? But the problem is with social media and leaks and everything in this day and age, unfortunately, it is just impossible to keep it secret who it is.
Yeah.
It's just impossible. So I really appreciate that. It would be great to not know until the regeneration itself. That would be, wow. That'd be amazing to find out, along with the companion or whatever. But that's just never going to happen in this day and age. So I think rather than just having it written in a newspaper, let's have a big announcement show. Let's all gather around the TV with our cans of cider and oh, here we goes the next Doctor. Because I really loved it last year when not last year, sorry. I really loved it when they did that with Peter Capaldi. I was like, it was really exciting. They did like a whole half-hour build-up to him coming on stage, and it was just like... I just sat there thinking 5 minutes, we're going to find out who it is. It was really exciting. So I hope they do that again.
It is a good build-up, I guess. But I can't imagine they'll do that until after Series 10 has gone.
I wouldn't have thought so,
Which won't be until July, I believe. I think it runs through to some date in July. So probably after that.
Although someone did point out, though, that because of this year gap, they've already been filming. They were saying they will be starting to film Series 11 this year. So they might have to announce it because there'll be people on set getting pictures of whoever it is. So they might be forced, to announce it early.
Yeah, there's no definitive date, but somebody has said that Series 11 will start filming shortly after Series 10 has aired. So... there we go. But yeah, it's a crazy... It's an exciting time, and it's crazy.
It is exciting, yeah.
It's great to soak it all up. But yes, I would, it is, just to round it all off, it is sad that Capaldi's going. But it's exciting times.
It is. I mean, I am excited about it. And just quickly before we move off this, as we're talking about Series 10, are you excited that the Ice Warriors are coming back in the Mark Gatiss episode?
I am, and I'm not. I am.
You're not at all. I can tell when you're like, oh,
well, I am, because I think there's a lot of potential with the Ice Warriors especially after seeing them in The Curse of Peladon recently. I think they've got a lot of, they can be a really cool monster, but these days it's such a huge risk with Mark Gatiss writing anything. It
panned.
Yeah, it's the dodgy time because. Yeah.
Well, look at it this way. At least he's not writing the sequel to Sleep No More, which was what was rumoured. Look at it that way. But also, I mean, he wrote Cold War, right? That the Ice Warrior one, where we only got one Ice Warrior in the whole episode, and I was convinced they were going to do a Dalek there in terms of the episode Dalek, where we got one episode with one, and then they'd all come back in the finale. We get a whole Ice Warrior invasion. That's what I thought they were going to do, but they never did that. So I'm kind of hoping we get to see more than one Ice Warrior this time, and if we do, then I'm happy for him to do it, because I'm sure he's got some good writing in him. He can do good stuff, but he's had a few blips lately, but let's hope he gets it together for the Ice Warrior one.
You're right, he can write a really good episode. He can, but I don't know.
Wait and see.
Maybe we'll get the Ice Lord back.
Well, I hope so, because he did say in his little interview clip, Mark Gatiss said it's going to be an Ice Warrior with a difference or something, because I did think, oh no, just write an Ice Warrior story. It doesn't need to be different or new or modern or changed. Just write an Ice Warrior story. But anyway, sorry, I'm getting carried away now. But he did say, didn't he, it's going to be different or something.
Yes.
I don't know. We'll see. Don't let us down, Mark. We know you listen. Don't let us down.
This is Capaldi's swan song. It's got to be good on his way out, as he's being hoyed out the building with the moth into the skips behind the BBC building. He's
TARDIS lunchbox thrown out the door. Bye.
It's got to be a good one.
Yeah.
So I think we could talk for ages about this subject, but we could. But that's basically the last news bit. Capaldi is off.
He's gone.
Yes. And that's going to do for news. We have got one bit of merch. So let's get the Daleks in.
Merch corner. Merch corner. Merch corner.
I don't know whether to be impressed or disgusted.
It's a bit rubbish, but it's pretty. It's very pretty.
So, in a kind of cruel twist of fate, there's a company called Abbyshot, which Adam told me are a US-based company, but they do ship.
I think they're US,
over to the UK, and somewhat cruelly, they've just announced that you can pre-order the Peter Capaldi red velvet coat from those guys, and it does look fabulous. I mean, it's quite expensive. It's not cheap. It's just shy of £200 in Great British pounds. However, just having a look, I mean, it does say this is not the final version on the website. However, looking at the photographs they have got on there, it does look pretty spot on. I must admit, I mean, I'm always wary of these companies that do like the replica stuff. I mean, I remember when the BBC brought out the David Tennant, the beige overcoat, and it was the wrong size, the wrong colour, had the wrong lapels, the wrong buttons, and it just looked nothing like the screen version at all. But these guys, they do seem to, I mean, the colour is spot on for sure.
It's nice.
And it does look very nice. But so Capaldi's out of here, but his coat is up for pre-order if you so please. So if you just go to abbyshot.com, you'll see an advert on the front page, and there's also a banner across the top. It says pre-orders now available. So £200 will get you the red velvet coat.
It's lovely. I know a lot of people have been waiting for this, actually. A lot of people want this jacket. Abbyshot are a really cool company. I like them. I like these guys because they did the little Sixth Doctor cap badge, and and they do the scarves, they do the question mark umbrella, because I never quite worked out what the relationship is with Lavazza. I never know how you say, because they seem to share, they seem to do the same products, or they, I don't know if these guys make it and ship them, I'm not sure, but they're really cool. Yeah, they look good, and if I had a couple of £100, I might get one in the biggest size they do. Probably have really long sleeves. Can you imagine? You sort of think, I bet it looks really good on me, and you get it. It's like massive. But no, I like this company. They're cool.
And you can also get the other 12th Doctor's coat, which is not up for pre-order. You can just order it now. You know, the very dark blue one with the red silk inside. You can get that one from those guys already. You can also get Captain Jack's coat.
It's nice, yeah.
Which is on sale. So instead of paying £230, if you've got £160 in your pocket burning a hole, Captain Jack's coat looks rather good.
They do 11th Doctor bow ties, don't they? They do the anniversary one, which is nice. They do the sticker celery, which good old Peter Davison. They do some great stuff actually. Talking of Capaldi's coat, you just reminded me. We had a set picture of him wearing a new coat recently, like this very rustic blue coat. Did you see that?
Oh yeah, yes.
What did you think? Because I loved it.
It I thought
it was I thought it was really, really nice. So they'll probably be doing that one as well soon. Yeah. Or next year or whenever.
Or next year once he's gone.
Yeah. Once he's gone, yeah. Oh, the little 4th Doctor lapel look with the paint thing from City of Death. Yeah, I'm liking all this. Liking this. All very tempting.
Yes.
So I'm going to shut the page down before I add anything to cart.
Good shout. That's going to do for news and merch. Now, enough of the sad stuff.
Yeah.
It's time to spend a little bit of time with that very happy chappy. The very eccentric, almost clown-like, Troughton-esque 11th Doctor Matt Smith. And this week, buddy, what are we going to review?
This week, it's Night Terrors.
Please save me from the monsters.
Tell me about George.
I mean, he's scared to death of everything.
George, you have to face your fears. You have to face them now.
We're dead. Again.
You see these eyes? They're old eyes. And one thing I can tell you. Monsters are real.
Are they now?
Dun, 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 dun. I got that theme. It's just like, every time we play a clip with 11th Doctor, it's always got that blimmin' music. I loved it when I first heard it, and now it's like, oh, dun, 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 dun,
I still love it.
Dun, dun. I do, but
I am
just
the
heard
Doctor.
it a bit too much. Yeah,
it's great. Right, Night Terrors. This was first broadcast on the 3rd of September, 2011. What's that? 5 years, 6 years ago? As part of Series 6, it was written by Mark Gatiss.
Or Gatiss.
Take your pick.
You decide.
Yeah. Directed by Richard Clark. And small cast in this one. The Doctor, Amy and Rory, and then we've got the wee lad, George, and his dad, basically. And his mum makes, his very concerned mum makes an appearance now and then when she's not working. So, Night Terrors, right, so the story is, I love the start of this story. So, the Doctor gets a house call, which is a great concept.
Yeah, it's nice.
The little lad, he's scared out of his wits, and he's doing that thing where you're so scared you sort of close your eyes and you either pray or you're begging for somebody to help you. And through time and space, the Doctor picks up this message, and they're off to, which looks like this typical sort of London estate that we see in Doctor Who. Looks very Rose Tyler-ish.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. And we find this little lad, he's scared of literally everything, and a concept that his parents have worked up is that anything that scares him gets put into the cupboard or the wardrobe. I don't know why they call it a cupboard. It's clearly a wardrobe.
That's a good point, yeah.
So everything gets put in the wardrobe, and he has these little kind of routines that he has to go through, and all that's in the wardrobe as well. Amy and Rory, they get sort of sucked into this little lad's mind, if you like, his thoughts, this kind of alternate dimension which acts as his fear, I think is the metaphor they were going for.
Yeah.
And and they get chased by these very creepy looking dolls and so on. While this is all going on, the Doctor and George's dad try and find out the root of the problem. So the Doctor's, frantically trying to figure out what the issue is. They end up getting sucked into the wardrobe as well, into George's fear dimension, I guess. And it turns out that the wee lad is not their son at all, really. He was an alien that sort of turned up from literally nowhere.
Yeah, we don't really find out, do we?
And sort of takes the place as their son. And because he's an alien and he's kind of adapted to what life is like, the only sort of thing that he's got to go on is his parents. And they've been a little bit meh to him recently. So they've said, should he go away? Should we send him away to a doctor and stuff like that? So it's all sort of metaphorical, really. And in the end, the Doctor sort of convinces him that it's him that has to sort out the problem. He has to face his fears, confront them, sort it all out, and then his dad comes to the rescue, reassures him that he's never going to be given away and he's safe and sound. And that's it.
Yeah, love saves the day.
Indeed.
Again,
yes. So we've spoken about Mr. Gatiss already on the show. More specifically, his ability to write a good Doctor Who story versus a bad Doctor Who story. Which side of the fence do you think this one falls on? For you, I mean, your personal opinion.
Do you know, I think there's some great stuff going on in this. I think there is a good story in there, but I've never quite managed to put my finger on why it doesn't work. But, I was really hoping that when I rewatched this last night that it would click, because I quite like a lot of what's happening, and I quite like the sort of the heart of the story and all that. But I don't know, it just doesn't work for me. This story, I find it takes far too long to actually get going for a start. I don't know. I just can't. I think it's sort of in the middle. Do you know what I mean? Right. I think it's okay. I think I can watch. It's watchable. There are bits of it I really like, but I don't know if it's the editing or the story itself. But something doesn't work about Night Terrors, and I just can't put my finger on it because I think there's a really good story in there. I think this could have been great. It could have been really creepy, and I think it could have been a little gem. But something about it just doesn't work. And I wonder if it's the editing or, I don't know, maybe it needed another rewrite or something. But it just falls flat for me. I find myself just sat there thinking, I'm bored. I'm reaching for the phone. This is just not happening. I don't know. I just can't put my finger on why, but it just doesn't work for me.
That's fair.
But I do sort of like it. So it's a bit of an in between. It's an in betweener. Yeah. Okay. What about you, mate?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would kind of echo that. I mean, I think it's like the majority of Gatiss's things, it has some good stuff in there. Some really good stuff. And interesting, actually, I put this on, I watched it last night, and I think about 10 minutes in, my wife came in and plonked herself down and was reading something or doing something because she doesn't typically watch much of Doctor Who unless it's the 10th Doctor and Martha or the 10th Doctor and Donna, that sort of thing. Although she does like Matt Smith, she does think he's a really, really good Doctor. And she sort of looked up, and the moment where Amy and Rory are in the doll's house and they are walking out of a corridor and she's got the wooden frying pan, and then you see just the silhouette of one of the dolls and you hear the kids like little laughing voice. My wife was glued to this whole episode from that moment on.
Really? Oh, right,
and that doesn't normally happen with Who. So I think this episode is great for sort of non-hardcore fans of Who. I think it's a good one to get into because it does give you that classic formula, which does work a lot better on maybe classic Who. But when you have that sort of scariness for the kids, because I know that if my son was awake when I was watching this, he would probably find it very scary.
Yeah.
You know, I'm 99% sure, you know, the cushion would be up in front of his face and he would find it quite scary. So, you know, it does have that, it's good for the adults, but it's also, you know, quite scary for the children. You know, and as kids, if something scares you, you just want to watch it more, you know, and all that stuff. So I think, you know, if you're outside of Who and you just want to get introduced to it and you want something that's going to grip you for 40 minutes or so, I think it's good. For me personally, I think it does have some good stuff in there, like you say, but it doesn't quite hit the mark for some reason.
Yes, it doesn't, does it?
It's almost like it's trying really hard. It's trying to be a scary story, and it's trying to be a very loving, heartwarming story at the same time, because it will come on to the lad that played George. You know, it's really meant to sort of make you be like, you know, that throughout the entire episode, because you feel sorry for him because he's only a little boy, but you can tell that he's absolutely petrified of everything, and you're really sort of worried and scared for him. And then you've also got the scary element, but for some reason it just, I don't know. And again, Matt Smith is, like we said earlier, he's fantastic in this.
He's wonderful in it.
Brilliant. Yeah, he sort of carries it through at certain points, but it just doesn't all fit.
It doesn't. It really bugs me. I really hoped that the penny would finally drop last night when I watched it. I thought, right, hopefully this time I'll watch it and I'll just think, yes, it's because, you know, this doesn't work or that doesn't work. I just watch it and I think, yeah, it's got all the elements there. It's like a puzzle. It's like a puzzle. You know, when you try and put a puzzle together and you haven't got the right piece, but you force it to fit in anyway, and it kind of just about works.
Yeah.
That's how I see this episode. It's like it's all there, but it just hasn't quite been executed right somehow.
Yes.
And I assumed it would be down to the direction. I thought, well, it's probably the direction. You know, the director hasn't filmed it very well or whatever. But it's not, because the episode looks fantastic. I mean, the direction actually is pretty good. Like, you know, the opening shot of the TARDIS materialising in the puddle, absolutely beautiful. And the way the council estate is shot, it's not the direction. So that's why I thought, well, maybe it's the editing then. Maybe it's, you know, because we keep getting we have conversations broken up with shots of the kid, you know, shining his torch, looking scared, which gets a little bit repetitive at the start. I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's just not been edited right, because this is getting a bit repetitive, and maybe we should have just had that scene with the dad and the thug landlord. Maybe that should have just been uninterrupted. I don't know. Something is just not flowing here.
Yes.
So I that's why I'm thinking maybe it's maybe it's the editing that's wrong, or maybe it's the music, because Murray's music, although very good and very nice, at times doesn't seem to be flowing with the scenes. So there are scenes like, there's a bit like, say, where Amy gets the wooden frying pan or whatever it is, and the music's going crazy, but nothing's happening. And I'm sort of thinking, okay, so that's a bit jarring. So I don't know. I think there's a combination of things here that just, I think the story is good. I think that the dolls themselves look fantastic. They look really creepy. They could have been made really, really scary. They're not used enough. You know what I mean? They could have been terrifying, those things. I think when they actually turn people into dolls, that's quite horrific. So that's good. So that could have been done better. But there's like a shot where they're creeping around under a door, where Amy and Rory are holding the door back, and they look underneath to see if the doll's left. I mean, it's so badly done. Like, you can't really see, you know that there's a shadow moving there, but you can't even see what's going on. But so I don't know. I think, like I said, just it's so close to being good, but something is not working. So it's not flowing at all.
I can see what you mean, mate. It's when I finished watching this, the main thing in my head was, it's not quite as bad as trying to put a square peg in a round hole. It's not quite as bad as that. It's almost like you've got an oval peg that you think could fit if it was, you know, shaped a bit better, and then it would fit in nicely, but it's just not quite there.
Yeah, because I do enjoy it, and I think that's why I find it frustrating, because I really think it's so close to being a really great episode. Like, I sat there and I was genuinely enjoying it.
Yeah.
But also just finding it a bit slow and somehow frustrating.
Yes.
If you know what I mean. Kept thinking, come on, guys, get get with the story. Like, let's get in the house. Let's get on with it. Let's see what's going on. Let's get those dolls, doing what they do. Let's do stuff. Let's get on with it.
Yeah.
So I do enjoy it. It probably sounds like I didn't. I did enjoy it, but I just find it a somewhat frustrating episode somehow.
Yeah, I did. Exactly the same as you, mate. I enjoyed the watch, and like I said, my wife really enjoyed it, and she seldom, sits through an entire episode of Doctor Who, unless it's David Tennant, of course. And I said to her afterwards, I said, "What did you think of that then?" And she said, "It was okay." She said it was okay, but the best thing about it for me was Matt Smith.
Yeah,
and I've never heard her say this before, but she said, after watching this one all the way through, he was a fantastic Doctor.
Well, he is. Yeah.
And she's never really said that before. She's always said, I don't mind Matt Smith, he's quite good. But this was the first time where she actually thought, wow, he was such a good Doctor in, an episode she saw. And that is one of the best, but we'll come on to Matt Smith a bit later, but that was one of the key elements for me, is his performance in the story.
Absolutely.
His part of it was actually written very well by Mark Gatiss. I really liked a lot of the stuff that, the interactions between him and George's dad, him and George himself, and just the overall confidence that he has. He just commands, the entire scene sometimes. And there's one scene where the dad's really angry with him because what he's just said to the dad, monsters are real. And then he just goes off to the kitchen and starts making a cup of tea. And George's dad is furious. He's like telling him to leave, telling him to bugger off. And he's not having it. He's just picking mugs up. He's going to get milk and all that. It's just brilliant.
He is superb. Scenes, yeah. 100% agree. Yeah.
So let's talk about a couple of story plots then. Plot elements before we move on to characters. The whole thing is quite... It's quite an interesting watch in terms of you've got the young lad who's scared of everything, and on face value you just think that he's a normal little boy who's just it's as black and white as that. He's just scared of a lot of things, particularly when he has to go to bed, and I think that's relatable. I think that's the good thing about this story. It does relate to a lot of people because so many of us have nightmares, and when we were younger, you are scared of the dark. And, sometimes I remember being downstairs watching TV with my mum, and we weren't even watching anything particularly scary because my mum just thought, this is just a program or it's just something. And I would find something that an adult wouldn't find scary quite creepy and scary. And then she'd say, right, it's time for bed. And I'd be like, can I stay up for a bit longer? She's like, no, you've got school in the morning, time for bed. And I'd go up the stairs into bed, and I'd lay there like quite scared for a while.
Yeah.
But my mum would be none the wiser. She would just assume I've gone up to bed and everything's cool. So I do
every little bump in the night, isn't it? Yeah,
exactly,
we've all been in there, so they can all relate to it. Yeah, every little shadow. What's that? Yeah. So that is quite nice.
That's one of the story things that I did really like, is that you do kind of see it through his eyes. Yeah. Those scenes where he's in bed and he's got his torch, and when your mind plays tricks on you and you see a shadow that is just the lamp or it's one of your toys, but your mind makes it more than what it is. Your mind does turn it into a monster or a ghost or something like that. So I did really like that part of it. I thought Mark Gatiss had actually, delved into those common themes that we all relate to, and we all find, especially as kids, we all did find that stuff scary at one point.
Yeah. Like you said earlier, I love the beginning. It's really great. Like, he's sort of really jumpy in bed, isn't he? Sort of thinking, oh, what's that? Someone outside and all that stuff that we like to could all relate to, and sending the message, the Doctor receiving the message from the kid in the TARDIS. So it's a really lovely start to the episode, actually. Again, I think just because Matt brings it alive, the way he spins round in the console with the thing, what's this?
Yeah.
It's just, it's a great little intro. Yeah.
How cool was that, though? That's how cool of a way to kick off a story.
Yeah.
Where we haven't got the TARDIS has landed in a supposedly completely random time, but it's perfectly timed to get caught up in a big conspiracy and, problem to sort out. They're not doing anything. They're just having a bit of a laugh in the TARDIS, all good.
Yeah.
And then this message comes through somehow, and and I like the way the Doctor describes it as well, that it must have been something extremely important and powerful to be able to go through all of space and time and all that stuff. And it's just the fact that they play on the word, what a traditional actual doctor would do is to call on a patient, do a house call.
Yeah.
It's great. So these are the things.
Nice intro.
These are the things that really set the episode up as a good watch, an enjoyable watch, because right from the off, like you say, the way Matt Smith spins around, and then we get the intro, which I've never liked really, that intro in the clouds and everything. But if you get past that little bit,
which bit? What they sort of? Oh, the like the vortex.
The vortex is made up of clouds and lightning and stuff like that. It's all right, but and then once you've got that out of the way, you then got some more good stuff. I mean, Amy and Rory and all knocking on doors and
that's quite
trying to find out. It's all good. So I think the actual setup for the story, it's got some relatable themes there, and it does kick off in a good way. The house call thing, and
it draws you straight in. Yeah, definitely.
Straight away. Yeah. So what did you think to the jumping between? So quite early on, so when Amy and Rory go into the lift, they obviously go into the doll's house, i.e. George's fear place.
Yeah.
And then the old lady gets sucked into the big pile of bin bags. So what did you think to that? Because obviously that happens quite early on. And then it's that jumping back and forth, isn't it? So you've got Amy and Rory not having a clue where they are, what's going on. The old lady doesn't know what's going on. And then it's kind of like a race against time then, isn't it? Because it then cuts back to the Doctor. He has to figure out what the problem is with George. We go back, they're in a bit more trouble. Come back, the Doctor's trying to figure it out. We then go back, they're in a bit more trouble. Did you like that sort of back and forth? Or do you prefer like the TARDIS team to work together?
No. I liked that because I thought it gave Amy and Rory some good bit of interaction together. They're quite funny together. I think I quite like Amy and Rory. No, I didn't mind that at all. I liked the fact that what they were doing on the outside affected the inside of the doll's house as well. Like the light switches made the candles flicker and all that. I thought there's some good sort of supernatural stuff going on. There's sort of some creepy stuff going on there, which I thought was good. I like the sort of setup of the house, the way everything was, like a giant toy candlestick and all that. I thought, this is really nice stuff going on here. I didn't mind that. I thought it worked quite well, and I really loved the idea that they were stuck in that doll's house, like this giant doll's. That was a really nice idea. I just thought they could have done more with it somehow. It's in the wardrobe. We could have. I just don't think it was executed that well. I think it could have done a lot more.
Right. Yeah.
With that, but it's a good. I liked the idea behind it. I thought it was quite cool.
Yeah, it's a good. Well, like we've said, it's one of those great elements that just didn't quite get realised on screen.
I love the dolls. I just think they look so brilliantly creepy.
Horrible.
I just wanted more. They are horrible, especially, and I'd totally forgotten actually that Amy gets turned into one.
I did.
And it should have been horrific, but actually I found myself really laughing. I think because Rory was just like, what the? Yeah. I was just like, oh, that's really funny. It's probably not meant to be, but that was great. It was a good moment though. It was a really good moment because you're like, oh my God, Amy's a doll, a creepy doll. This is weird.
I can tell you what though, it was really scary, the effects that they used.
Yes, more than I remembered.
Yeah, because it wasn't your average, let's just slap a bit of CG on there and we'll do the classic, we'll morph Amy into, like this smooth transition into the doll. They did this almost like stop motion effect where you saw the hair come out, and so that for me made it more creepy because they used this old-fashioned effect.
Yeah, I thought exactly the same because I didn't remember it being that that scary. I was thinking this is quite good, and I don't know if it's intentional. Like you said, it's sort of quite a old-fashioned effect, but it makes it more creepy.
Yeah, maybe old-fashioned's the wrong word.
Not old-fashioned. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Old-fashioned, but yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of out of place in a way, but in another way, it works brilliantly.
It does.
Yeah. And because if we think about another special effect which looked bloody awful, was where the landlord's sort of sinking into the carpet. And the way that you see the carpet go around his feet and stuff like that. It's but I did find, let's talk about the fear factor a little bit, because I did find that the opening scenes in the dollhouse would be very scary, actually. Yeah. There's a bit where Amy and Rory sort of leave the kitchen, I think it is, and all you see is the silhouette of a doll run past the door. Mm-hmm. And that's like a tried and tested formula, isn't it, for horror? You know, where they don't reveal I'm not going to say they're monsters, but they don't reveal the monster up front. They sort of tease you a little bit. So,
yeah, because there's one where they just sometimes you just see the shadow of the head looking like behind a door and stuff. Yeah, which looks great, doesn't it?
Yeah, and they still don't reveal that's the monster properly. So in that scene, they open the door, don't they? And Amy and Rory see the doll in the cupboard, but they think it is just a doll. And Rory prods it on the head, and they walk away. And then you see the head move as they walk away, and you think, oh God, they were just there right in front of it.
Yeah.
So I thought the scary factor, and this is because I wouldn't say that I'm a big fan of the horror genre. I don't really watch a lot of horror films, but every now and then I do like to stick on a horror film, because I do like being scared now and then. And it's when Doctor Who does scary, when it's done well, it can be very creepy. Really creepy. And I think this, especially the first half of this one anyway, it does do that quite well, I would say.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. Yeah. As I said, I thought everything was going pretty good, really. I'm just thinking, they never did figures of those dolls, did they? I'd quite like to have had an action figure of that doll. They did the Peg soldier guy. I remember seeing him in the shops. But someone might want to correct me, but I don't think they ever did figures of the actual dolls, which they seem like an obvious toy to do. You know, they'd have been quite creepy. And mind you, I don't know, would I really want one of them next to me as I go to sleep? Probably not. But they do look good though. They are a nice, simple design that you know would not look out of place in a horror film.
No, and I think they got that. They sort of went up to the line of being scary quite well. Because the dolls' faces, they kind of expressionless, really. And I think if they would have designed those dolls' faces to have a bit of a sort of evil expression on the doll's face, I think maybe that would have tipped it over the line. And I think that really would have given kids the proper creeps, you know. So I think it's just on that line where I think kids will find it quite scary, but it's not overly like it's going to scar their mind for the next 20 years. It's not that bad, but it is a bit creepy, you know.
Yeah, especially with the laugh as well, isn't it? That little chuckle that they the little chuckle is quite creepy. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think they got that just right, actually.
Yeah, and the nursery rhyme as well. When you hear kids in scary films or programs doing the whole nursery, it is creepy. It is good. Yeah. So the dolls were good. And I do remember, actually, they've got him in the Who shop still. The little soldier figure with a blue hat.
Yeah, I'm sure I remember a figure of him.
Yes, yeah, he was in there when I was last in there. But the so the dolls themselves all really good. What did you think to the concept of Amy being a doll then and Rory? Because Rory's lost, isn't he? He doesn't know.
Yeah, he doesn't know what's going on.
He has a clue, does he? It's not until the Doctor turns up. You know, it's quite cool how they meet on the stairs where the Doctor and George's dad are wrestling with a bunch of dolls coming up the stairs. Rory's
the big scissors.
And Rory's got the mop and he's trying to fence off the other ones.
Yeah.
Quite interesting that a companion, I wouldn't say, you know, gets lost in, because clearly Amy doesn't die, nothing happens to her. But you don't know that. If this is the first time you've seen the episode, you don't know that nothing serious is going to happen to her. She's just been turned into a doll.
Yeah.
So what did you think to that? I thought that was quite cool in a way, because we rarely see anything happen to companions, really, do we? Especially if you're not Clara. But I thought
I liked it. Yeah, I thought, as I said, I'm surprised I forgot that happened, because when she did get turned into a doll, there was a little bit of me that went, oh,
yeah,
yikes, don't want to say the word, Amy's a doll. I was like, wow, that's really good. I like that, but I'd completely forgotten it happened. Rory does make a joke, actually, doesn't he? That he says, we're going to die again, or something like that, which I thought was really fun. I was like, See, that's what I like about Rory. He brings a bit of humour to just in the right places as well, doesn't he? Like just as the episode's getting a bit dark and it's all kicking off, he'll come out with quite a quirky little line just to lighten the atmosphere a bit. So yeah, but no, I thought that was great when she was a doll as well. And just good to see Rory's reaction to it of like, oh, here we go.
It was a good shock factor for me.
Yeah.
Because I thought, wow, one of the main people has been turned into one of the... It's difficult to say because they're not really a villain or a monster, are they? They're just...
No.
Yeah, it's hard to say, to sort of categorise. But yeah, so one of the main cast gets taken, effectively.
Yeah.
Which is
I mean,
cool.
I obviously haven't watched this one very much because I also found it quite a shock when George, that's the kid, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or is that the dad? Yeah, George. When he's revealed to be the alien, I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. That's quite good. I thought, I didn't see it coming, and I've seen the episode before. I think I obviously haven't watched this one very much, but yeah, I didn't see that coming. I mean, obviously didn't see it coming the first time I watched it, and I'd forgotten and didn't see it coming this time either. So that's quite good, and it does just about work. I think it's a nice little twist because the way Matey says it, he does act that quite well. The dad does it. He's like, because she can't have kids, and then he sort of stops and realizes, hang on, but we've got a kid. What's going on here? So that it's done quite well, I think. That shock reveal.
It's done really well.
Being an alien. The only thing I did think of though is when they're leaving, the Doctor's like, I might just pop back, see him, when he's a teenager, just in case. I was thinking, but what about like what are they called? Alex, the dad, isn't it? Is Alex the dad?
Alex, yeah.
Yeah. What about his parents? That like, where did they? They can't just suddenly appear with this kid. Presumably didn't, or did he arrive as a baby? Don't know. It's just a bit in the bigger picture. Probably not something you need to worry about. But I was thinking, I can totally accept that this alien's landed and sort of made them think he's theirs and brainwash them, whatever. But what about everyone else? Like they can't just suddenly turn up and say, "Oh, Mum, don't forget to see little Georgie while he's here." Who's Georgie? The bigger picture. If he can't just suddenly appear, like that. But I suppose, we probably don't need to look that far into it. But that's the only thing that slightly doesn't quite work with the story.
Well, maybe that's due to because they do. I know it's a bit loose, me saying this, but they do kind of cloak it around this. So the alien, which is what a Tenza.
Ah, yes,
a Tenza. As in a similar way to what we've seen in Doctor Who in the past is that he's able to sort of fool people with a perception filter.
Yes, so I suppose he would have done that with everybody.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So if anybody comes round, they would also see him through the perception filter and not think anything of it.
Yeah.
But that scene that you're talking about, I thought was really, really good. The way that the sort of penny drops for the Doctor. And he realises that it's not any sort of outside force. It's not monsters anywhere. The actual cause of it is George himself. He's the one that's created this.
Yeah.
And the way that he goes and picks up the photo album and because it would have been really easy for Gatiss just to write that scene as the Doctor figures it out and tells Alex. That's the reveal. But the way that the Doctor doesn't want to tell Alex, he wants to get it out of him so that the realization is true because, he's gone back and like you say, that bit where he's really angry and he's like, she can't have kids. And then the penny drops to him as well. And he's like, hold on. Because it's really good how the Doctor says, tell me about the day that George was born. Tell me about that day. And he's like, yeah, it's one of the best days of my life. And then he thinks, or was it? Because I can't actually remember it. And it's not like one of those things where like something happened 20 years ago and somebody says, do you remember that? And you're like, I don't actually. Yeah. He honestly has no recollection. And that's when it all starts to unravel. So
but it's a good little twist, isn't it?
It's great.
So I quite liked it. I thought that does work for me. Yeah.
Yes. I love that bit. Really
mainly
good.
Like you said, because of the performance in that scene. I think it just, they do a good job of, not shouting too much. They just sort of pitch it just right, don't they? If it, like you said, the penny drops, it's well done between the two guys.
Yeah, Matt Smith's great as well because he's sort of plugging away. He's like firing questions.
He's just giving him enough to make him realise, isn't he?
Yeah. And then we have like the final act, if you like, where they're all in a dollhouse, and it all basically boils down to George. You know, the doctor's sort of saying to him, "It's down to you. You've got to confront your fears." And then the final little piece is the doctor realises that we have this really cool little sequence actually where we sort of go into the doctor's memory.
Oh, I like that.
That was really well done, wasn't it? Where it's sort of like, and it's
picks up on a small detail that he needed to know. Because that reminds me of the 11th Hour. Remember the bit where he's on the green and he does the old placing together all the pieces to work it out. It's not something they did that much, but it's really nice, isn't it, when they do that? Because it's a similar thing, isn't it? He just sort of, you can almost see him going into his mindset, trying to think, what is it I've missed? And then he gets it and thinks, that's it, got it. Yeah, I liked that bit as well.
And I think it's a bit where the kid overhears Alex and the mum saying, what do we do? Do we,
send him away or whatever?
Send him away somewhere. And I think I think George doesn't see that as, just go and see a doctor and come back again. As a little kid, he probably hears, they're going to send me away for good. They want to get rid of me. So that's the final little cog in the machine, isn't it? Where his final little thing to get over is the fact that he's safe. He's not going to be given away or sent away anywhere. And it's down to the dad to do that. And it's quite a touching moment because he's saying, even now that I know that you're not truly, our son and you're an alien, I will always view you as my son and I love you. And so it's quite a touching, it's quite a nice, heartwarming way to finish it all up.
Yeah, no, I agree. It all comes together quite well, I think. Yeah.
What did you think before we get on to George, what did you think to Alex then, Daniel Mays? Do you think he played that pretty
good? Daniel Mays? Yeah, it's weird actually, because I remember when I first watched this when it aired, thinking he wasn't particularly good, but watching it again last night, I don't know why I thought that, because I thought he was good. And I think particularly his interaction with Matt Smith, I thought together they acted really well together. They bounced off each other really nicely. He's quite a well-known actor now as well, isn't he? He's gone on to do quite a lot of things. Daniel Mays, I've seen him pop up in a few films and quite a few TV programs as well. So he's a good actor. I think he's decent in it. Yeah, I think he's pretty decent in it.
He's in Rogue One, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is in Rogue One. Yeah. I was going to say, he does pop up. You sort of suddenly, he's got that sort of cheeky, chappy face, so he's quite rememberable, isn't he?
Yeah.
But he normally plays the sort of stronger. He quite often plays the sort of geezer. I'm a bit of a geezer, so it's quite nice to see him playing this sort of dad that's a bit out of his depth. Because when the landlord's having to go at him, because of the other characters he's played in other things, almost expected him to sort of, give him a right hook and be on your way, mate. Don't because he's normally playing the hard man. So it's quite good to see him playing this slightly more gentle character, if you like. So I thought he was decent in it, and he does. He's great with Matt. Him and Matt together, really, really good. I sort of imagined them going off for a pint together after the filming. Do you know what I mean? Like, come on, Matt, let's go and have a pint, mate. And then Matt getting drunk. But no, I thought they were good together, those two. But yeah, I like Daniel Mays. What do you think?
Yeah, it's amazing how opinions change over time. I can't remember the last time I did watch this episode, but I remember thinking that he was quite bad.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah.
I'm thinking, they could have cast somebody a bit. But when I watched it last night, exactly the same as you, I thought, wow, he's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And the thing for me is that he's convincing. He does give it his all, especially when he's shouting at the doctor, and that bit at the end where, he's sort of broken down in tears a little bit and he's reassuring George that he loves him and so on. He kind of gives it his all for that, as a...
Yeah.
And he is good in it, but it is weird that I thought that he was quite bad before.
Yeah, that's how I remember it. I always remember thinking, I remember thinking the supporting cast weren't very good in this one, is how I remembered it. But yeah, he's definitely better than I remembered.
Yeah. Let's go on to George then, the wee Tenza lad.
Yeah. Jamie, how'd you say it? Jamie Aram?
Jamie Aram, yeah. I can't say that I was overly enamoured with him. It's always very difficult when you're talking about child actors because... you don't want to come across as overly mean or anything, but I didn't really think he was very good at all. That young, it just.
I didn't think he was bad.
Didn't you?
I mean, it wasn't great, but I don't know. I think I've seen worse. I think he did the job, but yeah, I would agree he's not brilliant. But yeah. I didn't sit there thinking, "Oh, this kid's awful." Like, I felt he was trying, and I felt he was doing some weird stuff. In terms of the old eye blinking a lot, he was trying to do something. But
I thought that was the best bit for me when he wasn't talking.
The eye blink.
Yeah, I mean, when it wasn't talking, I thought he was okay.
Yeah.
When he's got that sort of petrified look. I mean, he played scared very well.
Yeah.
When he was looking quite petrified and the whole blinking thing. But it's when he opened his mouth, it's, I don't know, it's just so wooden and so, I don't know. But you can't be too critical because he's only young. He's
only a young lad. It's good though when at the end though, isn't it? When he opens up the wardrobe and Matt, the Doctor, goes flying back into it. I was like, well, that's good. I don't know if they had him on a wire or something, but or it might have just been an effect, but he properly goes flying into the back of that wardrobe. Give the boy some slack. He probably won't work again.
Yeah.
So that is right.
What about the landlord? The rough and ready, bit of a meanie bully type.
Yeah.
Oh, he serves a purpose, I suppose.
Yeah, I was going to say he looks the part, but again, when he opens his mouth, he's not exactly the most convincing of hard men, is he? He's not exactly. It's because he's trying to be this big. I'm going to want my money, or else it's going to be a bunch of fives and all that. He's not exactly the most convincing as this rough and tough guy, but he's all right. I mean, he looks the part, and he's not in it that much anyway. He gets turned into a doll, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's all right. I like his dog. I love the dog.
Oh, the dog, yeah.
Got like a big, is it a boxer? What do you call that?
No, it's a
pug. No,
a bulldog, is it? Is it a
bulldog?
I think, something like that.
Beautiful dog.
Yeah.
He's got, because the dog, it's obviously a trained actor, that dog, because it does seem to sort of pull comedy faces at him on cue, doesn't it? Like when he sat watching the TV and the dog sort of looks up at him and then he goes, oh, plonks his head down. And I like his dog.
Yeah. What about the old lady who gets... not
sure what the point of her was, actually.
Yeah, I think it's just to say that it's not just people directly involved are, unaffected. Could be anybody on the estate.
Yeah,
anything that George deems as scary, could be used as a device to transport people into the cupboard. The wardrobe. Actually,
yes, because I like that bit when she walks. You see the shadow of her creeping past his window with her little trolley, because he thinks he's scared of it, isn't he? He's like, "Oh, what's that?" We know it's her, but he doesn't. That's nice. That's a really good little moment, and you're right. She does serve a purpose actually in that sense. It's a nice scene at the beginning with her and the Doctor as well, where she thinks he's like, who does she think he is? She's like having a go at him about something.
Yeah, she has a pop at him. Yeah. It's quite cool.
Yeah, so she's all right, I suppose. It's, again, unintentionally funny when she gets thrown into the bin bags, but...
You just see her legs sort of get sticking out and get sucked in.
Poor old dear.
Oh, Doris.
But yeah, she's all right. Yeah, I suppose you're right. She does serve a purpose.
She's all right.
No, she's all
right. And then George's mum, she's in at the beginning, at the end.
I don't see her much. And again, I'm sure she's gone on to do quite good things. I recognise that actress. Yeah. No idea what she's called. Do you know?
She's...
Is it Sophie Cosson?
Could be.
We'll go with that. It might not be, but...
It might not be.
Yeah, George's mum. Anyway, ginger, frizzly hair. I'm sure I've seen her pop up in quite a few things since this. And she only gets about 4 or 5 lines, doesn't she? She's all right, the mum. She's quite good when she's sort of getting cross with him about the lights and all that. And, she's quite mumsy.
Quite mumsy, yeah. Yes, and Amy and Rory, then.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Amy and Rory. Yeah,
we have spoken a bit already. It's just they don't have a huge amount to do. They're not responsible for saving the day or anything. But yeah, like we said, it's quite cool when she turns into a doll. Rory's quite funny, and that's it, really.
Yeah, they don't get a lot to do. They do provide some nice comic relief, though, don't they?
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really cool to hear Rory. He's very, very cynical, isn't he? Like, you know, so they've landed in this position again where they don't know where they are, what's going on. And Rory's just like, oh, he's always got that vibe, and he's like, oh, here we go again. We're probably in mortal danger, you know, but you don't care because it's the Doctor, but we'll just have to deal with it. And he does that very well, doesn't he? That way of thinking. He
does. And I quite like these three together. I quite like the Doctor, Amy and Rory together. I think they bond really nicely.
Yeah.
And Arthur Darvill is good. I think is Rory. Good. Like you said, he's sort of like this hapless, following Amy around. Doesn't really want to be there. He'd much rather be at home, you know, in front of the TV with her snuggling up on the sofa. But because she's like off on all these adventures, he's just tagging along, and he, you know, thinking, "God, will it ever end? Will it ever end, Amy?" But yeah, I like Arthur Darvill. I thought he's nice performance. Amy Pond, Karen Gillan. Standard, she's fine. Yeah, quite nice. They work well together.
Yes, and she's not too annoying in this one either.
She's not. No, she's not too cocky in this, is she? Yeah. No.
And then Matt Smith,
Matt himself,
the man himself. Yeah, it's wonderful in this.
He is. He's really, really good in it. He's some lovely scenes. Great with the dad. Mm-hmm. Nice when he's on, you know, chatting to the kid, and he makes all his toys go mad with his Sonic.
Oh, he just leaps up on the bed, doesn't he? And
yeah, it's just such a nice little scene.
Yes.
And he's good with the humour as always. Like when he says about the wood setting, he said, "I really must sort that out. You know, this is getting embarrassing. Yeah. Sonic can't do wood." Yeah, he's great in it. He's really, really good in it. But I mean, it's interesting what you said about your partner saying about, you know, not being a fan of Matt Smith, and yet actually watching him, she just, you know, really liked him in it and stuff. Because I feel a lot of people switched off when Matt took over. You know, sort of people that were very much, you know, tenants of the Doctor, not interested. I suppose what I'm trying to say is I think a lot of people perhaps didn't give Matt much of a chance,
right?
So they might have watched one or two. Because I'm not saying this about your wife, by the way. I mean, I'm talking about people I know. I've got friends that were very much into Doctor Who when Tennant was the Doctor. Mostly females, I have to say, that I'm referring to here. Most of my friends that are girls that watch Doctor Who, a lot of them just didn't take to Matt, but they didn't watch many. So I can think of, I'm thinking of two people. I'm not going to name them. I don't know if they listen, but I'm thinking of two friends of mine, that are both female, that just, when Matt took over, they weren't interested. They watched one or two, decided he wasn't a very good Doctor. And I think a lot of people did that. And I think if they'd have actually sat down and got to know his Doctor, he was absolutely superb as the Doctor. And I think I think a lot of those people that didn't give him a chance would have, if they had have carried on with him, would have really got to love him, and perhaps went back and fell in love with him as the Doctor. You know, if they the more they watched him, because he is brilliant. To me, I think, can never quite decide, but I think he might be my favourite Doctor since the show came back in 2005.
Okay.
For me, he just encompasses everything about the Doctor. He's geeky. He's good when he's serious. He likes making gadgets. He's a bit of a buffoon at times, but you always feel he's in control. Yeah, I just really like Matt. I just think he's spot on.
He's fantastic, yeah. And it's like there are many, many little moments in this which are, he just plays just so naturally brilliant. There's, you know, when he's having a row with the dad in the kitchen and he's making a cup of tea, and the dad's just not having any of it. And even at the last point in that scene where the dad tells him, you know, to bugger off, Matt's reply is, you know, a bit of a gateism, but he's like, "Do you have any jammy Dodgers?"
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And things like that. I mean, it's one thing reading that in a script, but it's another to bring that line to life as the Doctor. And Matt just does it so good, just brilliantly. And there are loads of moments like that in just this episode alone. The little interactions he has with George, some of the scenes with the dad are really good. The very heartwarming stuff at the end where he's really urging George to face his fears and, you know, and all that stuff. And then just, it's cool because at the very beginning, he's very, a message, you know, and we have to go and do a house call. From that moment on, he's into it. But he really falls, you know, for sort of his compassionate side really comes to the surface right at the beginning of this episode, because, no matter what's going on, he's decided that he has to help whoever's contacted him, in distress. He has to help them. And then he helps them, he does all that stuff. And then, just the way he walks off, I might be back, during puberty. That's always an interesting time, whatever. That's it. And he's off. We do have a little bit of a downer at the end where the Doctor sees,
the screen,
and we see, what is it? The date and time of when he's going to die, apparently.
Yeah.
We see all that. It's a little bit of a downer, and it does sort of drain the blood out of his skin quite quickly when he sees it. But other than that, he's just really sort of on form,
He's very full of energy, isn't he? That's what I always like about Matt Smith's performance. He's always full of energy. Like even just like you said, something on page, he receives a message through the vortex, whatever. He doesn't just sort of turn around and say, "Oh, what's this?" He spins round and the arms roll. "Hello, what have we got here?" You know what I mean? He's really he's always bringing scenes to life. That's what I like about him.
Yeah, I can't fault him in this one.
No,
not at all. Anything you want to mention, mate, before we get on to our scores?
No, mate. No, I think this is one of the episode where I've made the fewest notes. I kept thinking last night, golly, I really can't think of much to say about it. Thankfully, we have managed to find stuff to say about it. But no, I think we've covered it, mate. Yeah.
Cool. It's your turn to go first. What you got?
Okay. I do enjoy it. I just find it unsatisfying at the end of the day. So I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10.
Okie dokie.
What are you giving it?
I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10.
A 7?
Yes, because after I watched it last night, in my head I was like, that's a 6. That's a 6 for me. And then the more that I've thought about it, and the more that we've spoken through it, just Matt Smith alone just bumps that up a bit more for me.
I won't lie to you. I had written 6 out of 10. I've literally, just as you asked me, written a 0.5. I think because we have talked through it, and the reason I've added on the 0.5, and I don't know if you're the same, is because I do like the actual story itself. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do think it's a good story, and like you said, Matt's great in it and stuff. So yeah, I had actually written 6 out of 10, but I'm going to give it another 0.5.
Yeah,
and it sounds like you've done the same, so that's cool. Yeah,
it's got some great elements in there.
Yeah,
it's off like the great episode. It's a good episode of Doctor Who. It misses out on the greatness because of some things that don't quite click. But overall, it's a fairly decent watch, that one. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
What did our lovely listeners think? We've got a couple of audio clips in. The first one is from Loopy Loo.
Hey guys. Well, this is a much better Mark Gatiss episode than the likes of Sleep No More. I think it would be great if the Doctor did pop back when the kid reaches puberty. That could be really good fun. Overall, I think it worked well, but it would be improved with a better child actor playing George, in my opinion. I give it 6 out of 10.
Oh, Gary and Adam, hope you're both well and enjoying the show this week. So, Night Terrors. Personally, I thought the story was really creepy back in 2011. It has some really striking demises for 9-year-old me that I really saw and went, oh God, whoa, that was scary. Such as that old lady, she got eaten by bin bags, as far as I remember. I could be wrong because I haven't watched this one in ages, but I'm pretty certain she got eaten by bin bags. And then the way the peg dolls twisted you into them, I thought that was terrifying. When that fat landlord chap, when he was turned into a peg doll, right? He wasn't the landlord, but the fat guy. I was terrified of that. And then Amy got turned into one. I was going like, oh God. So these were great concepts by Mark Gatiss, and I thought overall the peg dolls were really striking monsters. But I did think... I did think they were used very well in the dollhouse. But I did like that aspect, but I thought the child... I can't remember his name, but he turns out to be an alien, but I thought it was a bit random and came out of nowhere. I just don't understand how... I understand that Alex, the dad, didn't realise he was an alien because... It turns out he never even had that child. It just turned out and his memory was altered or something. But I don't understand how nobody around him realised that his wife was never pregnant. I just found that a bit confusing. And the kid's acting was great. And overall the plot for the story was weak enough because I can't really remember much about it. But I do think Matt Smith did save the story, having some great moments. So I'm kind of on the fence with this one. I don't hate it, don't love it. So I'm going to split down the middle and give it a 5 out of 10. So yeah, thanks for listening. See you all next week.
Hey there, Gary and Adam. I hope you two are well, and I hope you both had a great Christmas and a great New Year. It has been ages since I've done any sort of audio for the podcast, because I've basically had a crap couple of months. But I have spent a lot of my spare time marathoning and catching up on all the podcasts from episodes 118 up until now. Quick recap on the last couple of months. The Return of Dr. Mysterio was crap. Class was average. Night Terrors was, well, average. It's an episode I've not watched for a very, very long time, so my memory's not exactly fresh with this episode. But one thing that always does stand out to me is that the child acting was awful. I absolutely hated the kid who this story was centred around. I thought the acting that he was giving was terrible, and that kind of knocked the believability of the story, and I couldn't really focus on it because his acting was so bad. I do remember the pot dolls being quite scary, and I think there was a scene where Amy was kind of transformed into one, which I thought was really creepy. But other than that, I don't remember anything from this story, and it's not memorable whatsoever, which I think says a lot. Maybe I might have to go back and rewatch it, but looking back, I don't remember much from it. It doesn't really come to me as an episode that I liked very much. So I'm probably going to give it a middle-of-the-road 5 out of 10. I hope you guys have been fantastic, and I will see you both soon. I'll see you soon, Adam, and Gary, I'll see you soon too. I will, Gary. You'll see me as well. We'll see each other soon. Take care, guys. See you next week.
Over on Facebook, Adam Pink says, he says you've picked some cracking stories so far this year. I love, that was last week's one, when he told us about the Curse of Peladon.
Ah, yes.
But he says, Peter, what about your series with Chibnall, where my favourite Doctor can finally reach his full potential? I think this is on the mind of everybody.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
He goes on to say, right, okay, Night Terrors. I don't like it very much, but has some funny lines. A 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10.
And then he says, but Peter, 2 Doctors gone in a space of a week. Mind you, we still have Series 10, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adam. Who is not Danny.
No, he's not Danny.
Got it right.
No relation.
Yep. Kevin Mullen says, Night Terrors, perhaps Mark Gatiss' best story since The Unquiet Dead. Plenty of really creepy moments, such as Amy being turned into a ragdoll. The resolution is a bit poor, relying on love as a solution, something that happens time and time again in modern Who. Overall, not by any stretch of the imagination a classic, but enjoyable enough. 6.5. And he says, rest in peace, John Hurt. Utterly devastated.
Absolutely.
Lewis Palmer says, I love this one. It's so underrated. I'd happily watch this over many recent stories. The peg dolls are creepy. The kid is actually decent for a change, and it's just a nice little adventure. It's a cool concept, and the whole episode highlights how good Matt is with kids. I'd give this one an 8 out of 10. I really like it, and I'd like to say, rest in peace, John Hurt.
Yes.
Joseph Howarth says, well, it was better than Let's Kill Hitler. But then again, there are thousands of stories that are better than Let's Kill Hitler. He says, it's all right. It's not brilliant, not terrible. Just there, really. The problem with the story is it's not really scary. The peg dolls feel more like carbon copies of the gas mask zombies than they do much anything else. The story feels a bit like The Empty Child, The Doctor Dances, but worded differently. Matt Smith is brilliant in this. There are quite a good few moments, like the eyes speech and when the Doctor starts throwing the accessories in the doll's house at Alex, that they are sent by George. Part of me is thinking, okay, this is episode that happened. Part of me was just waiting for something to happen, and that's just how it felt to me. It was too slow, too boring, and just wasn't scary enough. Had quite a few... it's funny quite a few times, but only because of the 11th Doctor doing so well. Again, it isn't terrible. It's rather forgettable and feels flat. It says, by the way, rest in peace, John Hurt. You are a great Doctor, and you'll be truly missed. For this story, he gives it a 6 out of 10.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, Sammy Satine, a little boy who isn't what he seems, puts everything that scares him into a cupboard. Now, I like Mark Gatiss. He seems like a lovely guy and has written some great episodes, and he's great, and his acting is great too. Mycroft being one of my favourite characters in Sherlock. However, how on earth he managed to write this drivel is truly beyond me. The Peg dolls look good, but that's it. Matt Smith's acting is good, even though he can't save this one. All I can say is I hope his episode he wrote for episode 10 is better than this. 2 out of 10.
Sammy, not a fan.
Yeah, she says, also, rest in peace, Sir John Hurt. Thank you for being the Elephant Man, Mr. Ollivander, who gave Harry and the rest of us wands, and for being the Doctor during the toughest period of the Doctor's many lives. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Joe Sweeney says, Night Terrors is an okay story, but one forgettable. Dolls are okay, but didn't find them frightening. They do look a bit creepy, but they are also forgettable. Amy and Rory don't do much until Amy is transformed. The story has got some funny elements. The one thing that got me entertained was Matt Smith, who gave a good performance. Resolution's a bit weak, but overall it is watchable. 5 out of 10. He also says, rest in peace, John Hurt. You're a fine actor and will always be remembered in the Doctor Who universe as the War Doctor.
Yes.
Dean Jones says, a decent but flawed story. Matt Smith, excellent as usual, and works really well with Daniel Mays and the child actor in this story. The direction is solid, and Mark Gatiss nails the horror elements, particularly in the dolls, which are a great but creepy piece of production design. As for flaws, much like Rose and Mickey, the girl in the fireplace, Amy and Rory don't add much, but I appreciated their humorous moments. The big problem is George's reveal as an alien, which takes away from the drama, horror, and to a younger audience, the relatability. And the episode would have been much stronger without it. It's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Also wish the story arc wasn't presented here, considering we had 2 very strong arc-heavy episodes with A Good Man Goes to War and Let's Kill Hitler beforehand. Mark Gatiss can be hit and miss sometimes. As flawed as it is, it's one of his stronger efforts. 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree about the story arc stuff. That's that's Moffat sticking his fingers in again at the end.
Of course, yeah, that's the Moffat. Justin Lee says, first off, rest in peace, War Doctor. You will be remembered and missed. He says, this week's episode, Night Terrors, I thought wasn't bad. I am rather fond of Matt Smith as a Doctor. I just thought the story was good but bland. The dolls were creepy, but only at first. It's like being scared by a moth, and then you realise it's a moth. And you just toss it back outside.
That is a really good analogy.
Yeah. Overall, I rate it a 6 out of 10, just above middle.
Yeah.
The last few here. Miles McKenzie. Hi, guys. Hope you're doing well. Night Terrors looked amazing in the trailers, and the Peg dolls looked like a creepy invention, but the episode wasn't as good as I hoped. I liked the general idea, but I feel the ending was rushed. This story should have been a 2-parter, really. Matt was very good as always, and Karen and Arthur are very good. It seems pointless to the plot, though. Overall, 5 out of 10, and rest in peace, John Hurt.
Yes. I wondered if it should have been 2-part. It is quite a lot of build up to a very rushed conclusion, isn't it? But I don't know if there's enough story for a 2-part. But yeah.
George Coppen, shields up, here I go. I like this episode. I remember seeing it in the Series 6 trailer and look forward to it. The dolls are as creepy as anything. 7.5.
Yes. It's the trailer, you see. Maybe that's why on first watch I was disappointed, because the trailer did. I remember thinking this is going to be amazing. Mark Gatiss, this is going to be really creepy, and the trailer was amazing.
Yeah. And he says, rest in peace, John Hurt. Danny Brown, people hate it, but I don't mind it. Not much else to say. 6.5.
Okay.
And lastly, Gavrick Sawyer says, the dolls are kind of creepy, but nothing else about this episode is particularly good, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that's the official Facebook page done. Anything on the Geek Sandbag?
Yes, I had a couple on the Geek Sandbag. So Martin Asquith says, I remember being unimpressed at the original airing of this episode. However, when I recently gave it another go, I really enjoyed it. Creepy, dark, and some genuinely haunting moments. The dolls are quite unnerving, and Matt is on top form. Yes, I agree, Martin. Charlie Turner, he says, before I say my thoughts on Night Terrors, I'd like to share my mate Adam Time Lord Fishwick's thoughts on it. He thinks it drags in general. He doesn't care about George. He likes the dolls as they are creepy, especially when Amy got turned into one. He gives it a 6 out of 10. As for myself, it's very good for what it is. One of my couple of favourites from least favourite series so far. Series 6, so he gives it an 8.5 out of 10, as it's good but not perfect. Quite a high score there, Charlie. Hendrix Chaplin, hi Hendrix, he says, thinks this is one of those stories that's been forgotten and overlooked. It does get totally forgotten, I have to say. Even I just forget about it, but it's better than that. Patrick Sherwood says it's not the best story, but he doesn't mind it, so he's going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Jack Wilderspin says, really cool concept for a story, but I don't feel the execution was quite right. Matt is great, but seems a little wasted potential. So he's giving it 7 out of 10. Yes, thanks, Jack. I agree with that. Callum Johnston says, best part was when Amy turned into the doll. Incredibly creepy transformation. Matt was great as always, but the supporting actors were just awful. 7 out of 10 from Callum. Lee Collins says, this was a great Matt Smith episode that was creepy as hell, and it has Matt Smith at his Doctor Who best. Pity they don't make him like this anymore, says Lee. And then he just finished it off by saying, God, I miss Matt Smith as the Doctor. So thanks, guys, for all those comments.
Yeah, I think we all miss Matt most of the time.
He is good. I'd love to see it. I mean, not that I want him to come back as the Doctor, like the rumours suggest, but he was phenomenal then, and he was quite a young guy. I think he'd be incredible now. Now he's got a little bit more weathered, a little bit more years of experience in his life. He'd be just an absolutely phenomenal Doctor now if he came back. But he was then. I mean, he's a young guy and he's so good. He's so good. I'm just looking at this picture of the dolls. We don't ever find out who was the Peg doll. We never see him come back to life, do we?
Oh, we don't. No.
We'll never know who that was.
Never know.
Probably Mark Gatiss.
Probably Mark. So that was Night Terrors. Thank you so much for sending in your audio clips and putting your reviews for us. That was really good. Last week, we totally forgot about what we're going to do next week, and we rushed it at the end. And
yes, we did, didn't we? Yeah.
Ran out of time. So next week, it's Classic Week. And what is it next week, buddy?
Next week, 5th Doctor story. Ding dong dong dong. It's Time Flight. That was my impression of the Master doing his crazy whatever he does in the episode. Yeah, Doctor, Time Flight.
Time Flight. Now, I'll be honest with you. I have seen this one a couple of times.
Have you?
Yes, I have seen it a couple of times, and I know for a fact before we even kick off on next week's show, this is not one that's regarded as
a classic
or any good at all. So between now and next week, I urge all of you to give it another watch, especially if you haven't seen it in a long time, because opinions do change over a while. Like we've done a few times on the show where it's like, oh, we haven't seen that one in ages. I know it's crap. And then we give it a rewatch for the show, and it's like, actually, there's some pretty... So I'm not saying that's going to happen with Time Flight. I'm just saying. I know it's got a reputation as being not one of the best, especially in Davidson's era. So it might be worth a rewatch.
Yeah.
So that we're all clued up for next week. So next week, Time Flights. Look out for the Facebook post and all that jazz. And I think that's going to do for 127.
Okay.
Thank you. For sticking with us. A bit of a long show, this one. But we did have some big news to talk through. So just to recap then, we say goodbye to John Hurt. Sir John Hurt. Mr. Ollivander, the Elephant Man. Whatever your memories are. But notably for us as Who fans, the War Doctor. Goodbye, old bean. What a wonderful career, though. Fantastic stuff. Yeah.
Definitely. And do check out his Big Finish stuff. It really is good.
Yes.
It really is good stuff.
It is good. We also, not right now, but we'll be saying goodbye to Mr. Capaldi as the Doctor. Not Mr. Capaldi himself, because that would be incredibly sad. But we say goodbye to Capaldi's Doctor. But we've got a year left, though. We've got Series 10 that kicks off mid-April. That will run through to July. And then we've got him, which I assume, which we're all assuming, will be his regeneration story at Christmas.
Yeah.
Before him and the Moff get like a pair of petulant drunk teenagers at a nightclub being hoyed out onto the street by the doorman as they're screaming and shouting, "You can't touch me! You can't do anything to me! You know who I am!"
Yeah, you're not the boss of me anymore.
So yes, that's all, and we look forward to discussing all of the wonderful casting stuff over the next few months as we lead up to when the Beeb actually announce it.
It's exciting.
Yes. So head over to our website, www.bigblueboxpodcast.com. From there you can listen to all the previous episodes and link off to all the social stuff. And you can also link off to iTunes, where you can subscribe to the show so you never miss it. And if you are an iTunes subscriber, if you could give us a review, that would be fantastic, because that really helps. Remember to check out Adam's channel, The Geek's Handbag. Just do a search for The Geek's Handbag on YouTube and Facebook. Lots of brilliant stuff on there.
Yep.
Indeed. Look out for the Facebook post and Twitter for Time Flight, which is our review story next week. Love your thoughts on that one. Yes.
Forward to hearing what people think of that.
Absolutely. Yes. Email us an audio clip. Do it. Right. Until next week, my name's Gary.
And my name's Adam.
And remember...